Have you ever noticed how strange modern life has become? A person can spend an entire day connected to hundreds of people and still go to bed feeling completely alone. Messages arrive instantly. Notifications never stop. There is always another conversation waiting, another video to watch, another profile to scroll through, another reminder that people are everywhere. And yet, for millions of adults, loneliness has become one of the defining emotions of modern life. Not because they live alone, not because they have no friends, not because they have been abandoned by society, but because something deeper has happened. Something subtle, something difficult to describe. The feeling that despite all the communication, nobody truly sees you. Maybe you've felt it. You spend hours talking to people at work. You exchange messages throughout the day. You respond to comments. You react to stories. You participate in group chats. And somehow, when the noise finally fades, a quiet emptiness remains. As if you've been surrounded by voices all day but haven't really been heard. As if you've been looking through countless windows while never opening a door. The strange thing about loneliness is that it isn't always connected to physical isolation. Some of the loneliest people are surrounded by others. Some of the most connected people feel the most disconnected. You can sit in a crowded restaurant and feel invisible. You can attend a party and feel like a stranger. You can share a bed with someone and still feel emotionally alone. Because loneliness is not the absence of people. It is the absence of genuine connection. And in a world obsessed with connection, genuine connection has quietly become rare. The human mind was never designed for the environment we now live in. For hundreds of thousands of years, human beings existed in small groups. People knew one another deeply, not because they were more enlightened, not because they were better communicators, but because life required it. You worked together, ate together, struggled together, celebrated together. Survival itself depended on relationships. There was little separation between daily life and community. You could not simply disappear into a private world. You belonged to a tribe. And whether that tribe frustrated you or comforted you, it provided something the human nervous system desperately needs. A sense of being known. Today, that experience is becoming increasingly uncommon. Modern adults have more freedom than almost any generation before them. They can move cities, change careers, reinvent themselves, choose their communities, build lives according to their preferences. And while this freedom offers extraordinary opportunities, it also creates an unexpected challenge. Nothing keeps people together anymore. Relationships require deliberate effort. Friendships require scheduling. Conversations compete with screens. Presence competes with distraction. And slowly, without realizing it, many people drift into lives that are efficient but emotionally fragmented. Their calendars are full. Their minds are busy. Their social feeds are active. Yet their emotional worlds feel increasingly empty. Part of the problem is that modern society has become very good at simulating connection. Think about how often you feel socially engaged without actually interacting with anyone. You watch someone's life unfold through posts and stories. You know where they traveled, what they ate, what they purchased, who they spent time with. You know details about their existence, and yet they know almost nothing about yours. Your brain registers familiarity, but familiarity is not friendship. Exposure is not intimacy. Observation is not connection. The mind can easily confuse these things. After all, from a psychological perspective, seeing faces and hearing voices activates ancient social mechanisms. Your brain interprets social information as meaningful. Yet much of what passes for connection today remains one-sided. You consume the presence of others without sharing your own. You witness lives without participating in them. You remain informed while feeling increasingly disconnected. It's a little like standing outside a warm house during winter. You can see the people inside. You can hear the conversations. You can watch the light through the windows. But you're still standing outside. And eventually the cold begins to reach you. Many people attempt to solve this loneliness by increasing consumption. More content, more entertainment, more scrolling, more stimulation. But loneliness cannot be consumed away. Because loneliness isn't a demand for information. It's a demand for relationship. And relationship requires participation, not observation. Participation. There is another reason loneliness has become so powerful in modern life. Comparison. Human beings naturally evaluate themselves through comparison. It is one of the ways we understand our place in the world. The problem is that social media exposes us to an endless stream of carefully selected moments. You rarely see ordinary life. You rarely see boredom. You rarely see insecurity. You rarely see loneliness itself. Instead, you see celebrations, achievements, vacation photos, romantic moments, social gatherings, milestones, the most attractive parts of other people's lives. And if you consume enough of these images, a dangerous illusion begins to form. Everyone else appears connected. Everyone else appears fulfilled. Everyone else appears socially successful. Meanwhile, you are experiencing your actual life. The messy version, the uncertain version, the ordinary version, the version that includes awkward silences, difficult emotions, and lonely evenings. Without realizing it, you begin comparing your reality to other people's presentations, and loneliness deepens. Not because your life is lacking, but because perception becomes distorted. The mind starts whispering a painful story. Everyone belongs somewhere except me. Everyone has people except me. Everyone is understood except me. Yet if you could somehow look beneath the surface of modern life, you would discover something surprising. Many of the people you envy are fighting the exact same battle. Many people who appear socially fulfilled spend their nights feeling unseen. Many people who seem surrounded by friends struggle to find someone they can call when life becomes difficult. Many people who look connected are starving for genuine intimacy. Loneliness often hides behind appearances. It wears successful masks. It wears confident masks. It wears smiling masks. And because everyone is hiding it, everyone assumes they are alone in experiencing it. There is a particular kind of loneliness that emerges during adulthood. Children rarely need to think about belonging. School creates social structures automatically. Friendships form through proximity. You see the same people every day. Life naturally creates opportunities for connection. Adulthood changes everything. People move away. Relationships end. Careers demand attention. Responsibilities increase. Time becomes fragmented. The simple act of maintaining friendship begins to require intention. Years pass faster. Schedules become more crowded. Conversations become shorter. And many adults slowly discover that meaningful relationships do not survive on good intentions alone. They survive through investment, through effort, through presence, through consistency. This realization can feel uncomfortable because modern culture often celebrates independence. We admire self-sufficiency. We praise autonomy. We glorify the individual who needs nobody. But human beings were never meant to function that way. The desire for connection is not weakness. It is not dependency. It is not failure. It is part of being human. In fact, some psychologists describe loneliness as a signal similar to hunger. Hunger exists to remind you that your body needs nourishment. Loneliness exists to remind you that your mind needs connection. Neither feeling is a flaw. Both are forms of information. Imagine feeling hungry and concluding that you are broken. It would make no sense. Yet many people treat loneliness exactly this way. They experience loneliness and immediately judge themselves. Something must be wrong with me. I should be stronger than this. I shouldn't need people. I should be able to handle life alone. These beliefs often make loneliness worse, because instead of responding to the signal, people begin fighting it, suppressing it, distracting themselves from it, escaping from it. But signals exist for a reason. They point toward needs. And perhaps loneliness is pointing toward something important. Not merely a need for company, but a need for authenticity, a need for belonging, a need to participate in life beyond the boundaries of your own mind. One of the greatest misconceptions about connection is that it depends primarily on finding the right people. Certainly, the people around you matter. But loneliness is not always solved by increasing the number of relationships. Sometimes it is solved by increasing the depth of them. Think about how many conversations remain trapped on the surface. People discuss weather, work, news, schedules, plans, updates. Information moves back and forth, yet very little of the self is revealed. Very little vulnerability appears. Very little truth emerges. And without vulnerability, connection struggles to grow. This is one of the paradoxes of human relationships. The thing we most fear often creates the thing we most need. People fear being seen. They fear judgment, rejection, embarrassment, disappointment. So they hide parts of themselves. The insecurity, the uncertainty, the loneliness, the fear. But when everyone hides, nobody connects. The result is a room full of protected people feeling alone together. Real intimacy begins when someone chooses honesty over performance. Not dramatic honesty, not oversharing, just genuine honesty. The courage to reveal something real. The courage to admit uncertainty. The courage to say what most people keep hidden. And often, when one person does this, something remarkable happens. Others begin doing the same. Walls lower. Conversations deepen. Humanity becomes visible. The connection people were searching for suddenly appears. Not because circumstances changed, but because authenticity entered the room. There is also an important distinction between loneliness and solitude. Many people confuse these experiences. Loneliness is the pain of unwanted disconnection. Solitude is the peace of chosen aloneness. One drains and the other restores it. One feels like absence. The other feels like presence. Learning this distinction is essential. Because some people attempt to escape loneliness by avoiding solitude altogether. Every moment must be filled. Every silence interrupted. Every quiet evening distracted away. But a healthy relationship with yourself is one of the foundations of healthy relationships with others. If you cannot sit comfortably with your own thoughts, relationships often become attempts to escape yourself. And when relationships become escapes, they carry enormous pressure. No person can permanently rescue another person from themselves. The healthiest connections occur when two people bring fullness to one another rather than demanding completion. This is why meaningful solitude matters. Not as isolation, not as withdrawal, but as space where you become familiar with your own mind. A space where you learn to enjoy your own company. A space where silence stops feeling threatening. Ironically, people who are comfortable alone often build stronger relationships, as they approach connection from desire rather than desperation. They seek companionship not to fill a void but to share a life. And perhaps this is where the path forward begins. Not by eliminating loneliness entirely, but by understanding what it is trying to teach. Maybe loneliness is asking you to slow down. Maybe it is asking you to stop mistaking visibility for intimacy. Maybe it is asking you to invest more deeply rather than more broadly. Maybe it is asking you to risk vulnerability. Maybe it is asking you to reach out instead of waiting. Many people spend years hoping someone will notice their loneliness. Years hoping someone else will initiate the conversation. Years hoping connection will somehow arrive on its own. But meaningful relationships are rarely accidents. They are built. One conversation at a time. One invitation at a time. One act of courage at a time. Sometimes the smallest actions create the largest changes. A message asking how someone is really doing. A phone call instead of a text. An invitation for coffee. A walk together. A deeper question. A more honest answer. Tiny moments. Life-changing consequence. Because belonging rarely arrives through grand events. It grows through repeated experiences of being seen and seeing others. Imagine a garden. You do not build a garden in a single day. You plant seeds. You water them. You return consistent. Growth appears slowly. Relationships work much the same way. The problem is that modern life conditions people to expect immediate results. Immediate responses. Immediate entertainment. Immediate gratification. But meaningful connection still operates according to ancient rules. It requires patience, attention, time, trust. There are no shortcuts, yet the reward is extraordinary. To feel understood, to feel accepted, to feel that your existence matters to another human being. These experiences nourish something deep within us. Something technology cannot replicate. Something algorithms cannot manufacture. Something screens cannot fully provide. At the end of life, very few people wish they had consumed more content. Very few wish they had spent more time scrolling. Very few wish they had accumulated more notifications. What people remember are conversations, shared laughter, friendships, moments of presence, the feeling of belonging, the feeling of being known. Perhaps that is what makes loneliness such a powerful teacher. It reminds us what truly matters. It cuts through distractions. It exposes the difference between stimulation and connection. It points towards something fundamental. The simple human need to matter to one another. Imagine standing beside a lighthouse on a dark coast. Far out on the ocean, ships move through the night. Each vessel surrounded by darkness. Each vessel separated by distance. Yet the light continues shining. A quiet signal. A reminder that nobody is navigating entirely alone. Perhaps connection works the same way. Not as a permanent state. Not as a guarantee that loneliness will never return. But as a light we offer one another. A conversation. A gesture. A presence. A reminder that another human being exists beyond the darkness. And maybe that is enough. Maybe the goal was never to eliminate loneliness completely. Maybe the goal is to answer it wisely. To let it guide us back toward what matters. Back toward authenticity. Back toward vulnerability. Back toward community. Back toward one another. Because beneath every achievement, every ambition, every distraction, there remains a simple truth. Human beings were never meant to walk through life entirely alone. And somewhere, perhaps closer than you think, there are people searching for the same thing you are. Not perfection. Not status. Not performance. Just connection. Real connection. The kind that reminds us we belong. The kind that reminds us we are seen. The kind that reminds us that even in a hyper-connected world, the most meaningful thing we can offer one another is not attention. It is presence.